Welcome to the show designed to give you crypto confidence. Created by the marketing communications specialists at Blocksparks, we want to help you learn about cryptocurrency and blockchain in a safe and friendly place. Because we believe this stuff is far too exciting to leave it to the geeks. Come and join us to learn more. Hello, crypto confidence people. If you're new to our podcast, we welcome you warmly and welcome back to our regular listeners. Thank you for all the lovely responses to the last episode about Give Nation, and you'll find all their links on the episode show notes at blocksparks.io or in your favourite podcast player. They're adding wonderful new case studies all the time, fantastic kids signing up with them every day, so do be sure to check them out. And on today's episode, we're extending that theme of storytelling and how this can be rewarded effectively using blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. It's a subject close to my own heart as a writer, because in this era of advertising-driven platforms and clickbait, the crafts of quality journalism and creativity have been fundamentally devalued online. So maybe we can start to reclaim that space. Today, we're going to meet somebody who's setting out to change everything and learn how decentralization of the content process is better, both for creators of that content and the people who read and enjoy it. Welcome, Rosemary.
Hi, lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, thank you for coming to talk to us. Before we talk about Narrative, your present project, I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into crypto and blockchain.
Sure. I am a serial entrepreneur. My husband and I have been running a technology company, for about 20 years. And a few years ago, he started dabbling in crypto investing and sort of brought me along with him. And then around probably 2 years ago, we decided to actually take the plunge and solve big problems using crypto and blockchain. And we saw publishing and content creation as one of those big rocks, those big challenges. So that's where Narrative came about. And definitely, like everyone else, at first I was like, what do you mean magic internet money? And now I'm looking at it as this is something that is happening and we all just need to get on board. So that's where I am right now.
Brilliant. Okay. So content platforms then, that's a jargon we use within the industry, but I'm thinking of things like Medium and blogs and even people writing longer form content on spaces like LinkedIn or Facebook. There are quite a few around now springing up related to blockchain and cryptocurrency. What are the ones that you think are important, and why is it important that they are blockchain based?
Yeah, I think that people use blockchain as such a buzzword that talking about these platforms that are actually truly using it to solve a problem is really important for adoption.
Yeah.
People need to understand that it's not just a buzzword. This is something that's being built in. Much like in the early days, you wouldn't talk about what your database was that you're using in the background of your technology. I think in the future, we won't even be talking about blockchain. It'll just be the piping that's underneath.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And you won't have to worry about it.
I'll see you on my HTTP page.
Exactly. We don't do that anymore. So, early days, I'd say probably around 2015 was one of the first stabs at it. There was a technology platform called Minds, which is still around, going strong. And they were tackling it from very much a freedom of speech standpoint. I think that's really their point of view. They're still around. It's a walled garden, though. It's all their content is behind a login. So you have to be a member to see it. Their whole thesis is, boosting posts using their currency. So they have a blockchain flavor to them. They've been chugging along in the background. A year later, Steemit came along. A lot of people are familiar with Steemit.
Yeah, you see, I would have thought that was the first one. I didn't have the brand awareness of Minds until relatively recently, which is interesting. I thought Steemit was the daddy.
It's, and probably someone will come along after and correct me and say, oh, no, this other platform was before them. So I'm not claiming to have the definitive history, but there have been people trying to apply blockchain and crypto principles to the problem of publishing for a while now. And Steemit, I think, got a lot of notoriety just because they gained a lot of traction. They have millions of registered users. They are kind of plagued with some problems at this point with bots. Very heavy emphasis on the early adopters, the whales,
Yes.
who kind of worked their way up so far into the platform that it's really hard when you come in. You're actually called a plankton when you join.
Oh dear, that's not very encouraging. No,
right? That doesn't make me feel good about myself.
You're an amoeba, you.
Right? So then, after Steemit, a lot of others have dived in. I think another interesting one right now is called Poet, P-O.et. That's getting a little bit of in the mix now. That one, they're more of a protocol and building an ecosystem for publishing all types of content using their own decentralized platform.
Right.
So there are a lot of people, a lot of smart people trying to figure this out. So when we came along, we had our ICO, our token sale, which ended at the end of March 2018.
Okay, probably just about the right time to be wrapping that up, I guess.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. That's a whole separate podcast, right?
Yeah.
The token sale. What we wanted to do differently is we wanted to make it easy for just anyone to come in and publish and sit down and write on the platform, and even not necessarily have to worry about the crypto angle of it and the blockchain. As I said, I really think it's going to recede into the background and just be part of the landscape. And when I'm a writer, I'm a creator, I want to be able to paint and draw and write and do all of my great creative things. I loved what you said about how content currently is being devalued from a creative standpoint.
Oh, what has gone on in the last decade or so? Goodness knows this is something that needs fixing, right?
Exactly. Why are we even calling it content?
Yes, I know. That's an awful word. We'll find something better for the title because it just sounds like some kind of wadding or stuffing that you...
Yes. And it sounds like a robot, did it AI somewhere, and it just exists, right? So to me, I'm all about the writer, the painter, the author, the screenwriter. Those are the words we should be using, I think. Bring your art into the mix.
I love that.
So that's where narrative is going. We want the members to be in charge. We want them to get the rewards. So that's where we are. It's a content platform where the members make the rules and they get 85% of the revenue.
Right.
That's our thing.
Okay. So that's great. So it's really decentralized then. It's all out in the community in terms of the creation and the reward and the recognition. And it sounds like even how it's actually run and managed.
Exactly. And we're still in beta. So we're bringing on components of the platform using baby steps. We want to make sure we're building this right with a long view. We're looking to have this thing be around in, 5, 10, 15 years. So we're really trying to build it so that it works. There's a reputation system. There's quality ratings. Coming soon, we're going to have publications so that you can have more of an owned space.
Okay.
We want to make sure that the governance is working with the reputation system so that the member governance and moderation and all of that is coming in the flow as well. So right now, people can upvote and downvote content. They can approve our niches, which is our subject areas. And so we're going to be gradually weaning off until members are actually setting policy. What content is allowed to even be on the platform, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I definitely want to come back to that. But thinking of it from my point of view as a writer, then, it sounds obvious to me that there'd be lots of benefits of publishing on narrative. Do I keep my content, my writing, my art? Do I still own it from a copyright point of view if I publish with you?
Yes, you own it. You can delete it. You can edit it. You can share it. It's yours. We do not claim any ownership over that content. And Furthermore, we're really giving you a way to amplify that content with the niche system. The
Mm-hmm.
niches I mentioned are the subject areas, and that can be anything from sport fishing to cryptocurrency to animal husbandry. It could be any subject at all.
That's
Um,
interesting because I think a lot of these platforms, like things like Uptrends and Publish, that have started, they've ended up really being content platforms about crypto because of the audiences that they're attracting. They're really getting relatively limited content about other subjects. But it sounds like you've invested in going wide and trying to create something very rich from the start.
Yes, and it was interesting. We really thought, since we had a token sale and we're in the crypto world, we really thought we might only have crypto content on the
Mm.
platform. But it really has struck me, independent musicians, artists, people are doing tutorials of how to create pixel art on the computer.
Cool.
All those types of things have really risen to the top of the most popular niches, which has been so exciting. I've seen, little funny story. We have a huge Nigerian contingent. We have an international audience, although we're English only right now.
Right.
He actually used his rewards from Narrative to buy a cow, and he named it Narrative, and he's posted pictures of the cow on the platform. And people
Fantastic.
are so, it's just this wonderful, warm feeling right now when you put people in charge and you give them the tools to do their thing and it scratch their itch, their passion. It's amazing what happens.
That is the ultimate in user-generated content, isn't it? Somebody naming a cow after your
Pretty cool. I'm going to
platform.
print out a picture of the cow and put it on my office wall. It's pretty cool.
Definitely. I think there'd be no finer motivator. But it is a serious reminder that for all of us who are, if you like, dabbling in cryptocurrency from an entrepreneurial point of view, because we live in parts of the world where our currency is fairly stable and predictable, and we can earn hard currency doing what we do, that in other parts of the world, it can be much more life-changing than that in terms of actually being able to earn and invest in something. And we're chuckling because a cow seems a fairly bizarre thing to buy, but actually, if you're a subsistence farmer or you need to feed your family, then that's an amazing asset to acquire, isn't it? I'm sure you've changed this guy's life.
Absolutely. And it did touch me when I saw, at first you say, what, a cow? But exactly what you said. Then I look further and I see this is really important. I mean, not only did he buy a cow, but that means something to his family and it has a ripple effect in the larger community. So we're not just messing around and talking about unimportant things. This is really something that could be life-changing for people if they really put in the work. And I see people all across the world really putting in the work and reaping the rewards themselves, which that is exactly what we wanted to happen. So it's pretty gratifying.
That's great. And I just love the idea of rewarding creators directly. And it's interesting to see more traditional centralized platforms like Medium starting to come back around to that model after everybody went the advertising clickbait route of you won't believe what happens if you click on this headline. Now, hopefully, there's starting to be some backlash about quality writing and creation. And so I think maybe it's the decentralized platforms that are leading the way there. So it's fascinating to see. And I really wonder where the space is going to end up as a result.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see where it all goes. I think I already see, things shifting in favor of the consumer on the other platforms. Think about things like Twitter announcing they're going to start showing interest feeds even. It's a little tiny, tiny baby step, but caring about what the end user sees and giving them a tiny bit more control over their feed and their stream rather than force feeding them what the algorithm thinks they want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a little bit more respect for the consumers who, for the centralized platforms, are, of course, also the product or
Yeah.
the raw material of the behavioral surplus that they're generating from all these actions. I think it just shows a little bit more respect, giving people control. So, I mean, it's obvious on the big platforms why that's better. But one of the things that I sometimes struggle with when I look at this explosion of exciting new projects in this space is the network effects. And if I say to somebody, come and read my stuff on narrative and come and join it, and they say to me, but I've already got 500 followers on Facebook, or 1,000 followers on Medium or something. What is the benefit for them to come on over to explore narrative instead?
I would say two primary drivers. One is where the rubber hits the road. When is the last time you got a check from Facebook? Not that you're getting checks from narrative, but in the end run, we're rewarding you actually tangibly. So you're going to be earning these points into your account, which you can then cash out in the form of Nerve and turn into whatever money you want.
Okay, so just to get clear on that, you earn points for when people, is it when people comment or when they read, or how do you earn the points in the platform?
Yeah, everything you do in the platform, you actually are incentivized with these reward points. Okay. So content creators earn the biggest chunk of the pie, and this is on a monthly basis. There's a monthly payout, and everybody, there's now a new hashtag, tag narrative payday. So everyone gets excited, towards the beginning of the month. It shows up in your account. And I like to explain it almost like your Amex reward points or your frequent flyer miles, right? Those points are just going to show up in your account on narrative, and you'll see that, I have 12,000 narrative reward points. Mm-hmm. Then we just recently added the ability for you to take those points out in the form of our utility token, which is called Nerve, NRVE. So you've got Nerve.
I like it.
So that's where, at this moment, you do have to have a tiny bit of crypto knowledge to take that Nerve out. And you can we're on a couple of exchanges. You can take it into your wallet and do whatever you want with that Nerve. You can turn it into fiat currency. We do have explainers on our site, and we'll help you along to do that. And I think that's something cool that we'll be doing, is bringing people along. And okay, how does this magic internet money turn into something I can spend on a cow, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's great. Is it, without getting too nerdy, is it an ERC20 token?
Actually, we're on the Neo blockchain.
Okay, right.
It's the Net5 token. Plug for Neo, everyone.
Yeah.
Not everyone's on Ethereum. We're excited to be part of the Neo ecosystem, and we've had a lot of great support from the other Neo projects. Some of them are publishing their updates on narrative now too, which is exciting to see.
That's so interesting, and just shows how many different manifestations of this technology there are. We're in this kind of Precambrian explosion, I think, of all these different directions it's going in, and it will be really interesting to see what shakes down in a few years' time. But I love the idea that this gives people almost like not a free route into it, because obviously it's a direct reward for their creativity in the first place. But in a way, what you're doing is saying, you come and play on our platform and we'll give you the raw materials to just experiment and learn to trade and learn to use exchanges without putting any of your own original money into it.
Exactly. It gives you a starting point, and whatever level you want to play at, we're fine with that. You could come in and you could write on narrative and have a great time commenting and reading whatever you're interested about. Go into the fly fishing niche and read and enjoy, and not ever even worry about, you could have those points sitting there accumulating in your account forever and just never worry about it. Or you could be sitting there creating wonderful content for other people and promoting it outside of the platform and bringing in new members and doing all of that great stuff, and then turning your reward points into cash if you want to. So whatever level will take you, whatever level you're at, and maybe over time you start to get more involved. Maybe you even want to get involved as a moderator. So it's kind of neat that there are all these different entry points for everybody.
Definitely. And it enables people to move between one and the other, and just a really low stakes way of getting involved. And I like the fact that it's open as well, unlike something like Minds or Medium, even where you really have to at least get behind a login wall, if not actually pay to access the content. you've got everything there.
Yes, exactly. And that, I think I diverged off of my two main reasons why you'd want to publish. So
Yeah.
that's reason number two. We are actually getting great indexing from Google and the search engines. So on the other platforms, they have algorithms in place that get in the way of your content finding the audience. Even people who have subscribed to you, who want to see you, have a hard time either because of a paywall or because of algorithmic feed changes to find your stuff. On narrative, it's the exact opposite. We've flipped the funnel. So when you publish on narrative, your people who follow you will see what you've posted because that's their homepage. Anything you've subscribed to is going to be right there on your landing page for you to see in chronological order, no messing around. And then once publications come in, when you publish to a publication, your subscribers will see it, but you can also tag it to niches. So if I'm publishing in my publication, let's go back to the fly fishing, since I don't know why I'm sort of hung up on that today.
Stick with that. Yeah.
So I'm publishing to my Joe's Fishing Shack, and I can also publish to sports and nature or whatever the other niches are. And I'm amplifying the reach of my content instead of shrinking it with algorithms.
Okay. And you're also providing those nice, clear signals for the search engines and for anybody else, either a human or an algorithm that's trying to make sense of that content, I guess, and kind of sort it.
Precisely.
That's great. And how do the niches work? Sorry, you say niches, I say niches. Tomato, and all that.
Even over here, we were having hardcore arguments. We had to settle on one, so we picked niche. So.
Yeah, no, it's your platform. You can call it what you like. But how does it work? Is it like tags and subjects, and how does it play out?
So I think of them almost like super tags because yes, anybody publishing content, you can just publish it to your own, we call it a personal journal. So I could just be posting only to my page and people could come to my page and read it. Or I can choose up to 3 of the niches. And those are like a public utility. So I can submit to any niche I want. Now, each niche has an owner. It's been approved by the community. So niches get suggested. They get approved by the community, and then someone can buy it in an auction process. Whoa, so it's almost like on eBay, like an auction style process where you set your max bid and you can buy it. And the niche owner actually does not control the contents of the niche. They actually are more like a club promoter, where their role is to make that niche popular. So they can promote it, they can bring in writers and say, hey, you should write for this niche, because they get rewarded based on the popularity of the content in their niche, period.
Okay.
As they build up value in that niche over time, eventually we are going to have a marketplace where you can resell niches. That's not in place right now, but you want to build up the value of your niche, not only for your own recurring revenue, but also for the long term. If you wanted to resell it, you could actually build it up and sell it down the road.
That's a very interesting approach. And it sounds quite unique to me from my own knowledge of these different kinds of content platforms. I've not come across anything like that. What's the protection in that model from a bad actor and somebody trying to do something they shouldn't to a niche that they maybe perceive as competitive, or they just hate fly fishing or whatever?
Yes. So actually, the secret sauce of narrative is that it's a very intricate series of incentives, and everything is geared around trying to suppress the bad actor and amplify the good actor. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole series of incentives, one of them being low quality content does not earn rewards. Every piece of content can be upvoted or downvoted by anyone, but your votes are weighted according to your reputation. So the reputation system comes into play.
Wow, okay.
If I'm just some sock puppet that's been spun up by somebody, I have no reputation and my vote counts for almost nothing. So I can't just run around upvoting things of my other sock puppet accounts. It won't do anything. Or conversely, I can't go just be downvoting your good content. That won't accomplish anything. So the incentives and disincentives really revolve around the reputation system and the voting system. When you downvote something, you have to say why, what your basis is for downvoting it as well.
Right. And that's publicly visible, is it? That you can't just say
Um,
because I hate flies and fishing.
Uh, yeah, well, you can say that, but it's the impact is going to be based on the action that's taken. So you can actually say this violates the acceptable use policy, and that gets reported to the tribunal.
Right.
Um, the tribunal is like our Supreme Court. Currently, that is our employees, but that's going to be devolved off onto the community itself as well. That's going to be decided by them. So there's really this whole intricate web of incentives to try and make sure that we don't get people intentionally coming in to harm the system.
That's really interesting. I mean, that's one of the things that most interests me about the whole blockchain technology and crypto space, because my background is as a storyteller and academically as a psychologist rather than being a developer. It's the way that all of this interrelates with human behavior and motivation, and the way that these really smart models have arisen that take account of the human as well, and build that into the algorithm. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I think as a psychologist, you'll probably have a field day in there. And, I'll say that one thing that I think makes us able to do this as a company is our background. Our team has been working on online communities. That's what our technology for the last 20 years, that's what we've been focused on.
Right.
So the idea of how humans behave online, how they react to content, how comments work, and what do trolls like to do, how do you moderate things, that is exactly what we've been living and breathing every day for the last couple of decades. So I say that was kind of our on-the-job training for what we're building now. So this didn't just pop out of thin air. My husband wrote this white paper a couple of years ago because of his background and what we've been doing.
Yeah. And it sounds like the technology and everything just came along at the right time, and the need within the writing industry to offer this better solution, this decentralized solution. It sounds like the perfect alignment of incentives.
It is funny. I really have felt that the news cycle has been helping us every day.
Yeah.
It makes me sad to see some of the things that are going on, but I'm heartened by the fact that, first of all, I believe in the goodness of human nature and humans in general as a group. And so I also believe in taking action when you see something that's not right or not working. So instead of sitting there complaining, we're lighting a candle and trying to do something the right way.
That's really encouraging to hear, because there is a dark side to this that we have to talk about. And a lot of these decentralized platforms have arisen, and they've ended up mopping up people who've been deplatformed from more public places to express things on the basis that they will give anybody a platform, that they believe in free speech above everything else. Now, we know some of the awful consequences of that are people live streaming hate attacks and all sorts of horrible things. And these platforms saying, well, it's free speech, it's nothing to do with us. If that's what these people want to say, we're not going to censor them. So it's a really difficult issue, I'm sure, for you as the platform provider to be grappling with, because censorship is not something that you want to be building in. How are you managing that? Is it all going to be devolved to the public governance, or is there some kind of overarching red line where you say, no, you can't stream yourself walking into a mosque and shooting people, for example?
Yeah, I think one issue that is you just illuminated really well is this idea that the platforms, while they're saying we want free speech, but then they get sort of talked into, or they decide to censor this thing or that thing, and we may or may not agree with things they decide to censor. It's because it's a small group of people in a room somewhere in California making that decision, making that call. Or maybe it's a room full or a couple rooms full of sad moderators who have been hired out, contractors who are having PTSD because of all the things they have to look at. So the way we've decided to tackle this, and time will prove whether this was the right approach or not. I'm not so arrogant to believe, we have this nailed, but we feel this is the right approach to give that control to the whole community as a whole. And because I believe that as a whole, humans are good, I believe that that is going to work, self-governance completely. We have taken a stand as a company that we will not delete any accounts of people. Content will float to the bottom or sink to the bottom or be removed based on community actions and community decisions. They will actually be setting the policy I mentioned in the future. There's an interface called the committee that will exist between the community and narrative company to solve some of those thornier issues in the future. But I really believe that community governance is the answer, because then you don't have, Rosemary and Ted sitting in a room saying, well, based on my biases and my opinions and the way I was brought up and where I live, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
I think by putting it out there to the whole community, which is thousands or millions of people, that will reach the correct decision. That being said, we do have legal responsibilities. We're a U.S.-based company. If a legal entity comes to us with a warrant or with something saying you must take this down, we have to actually, as a company, protect ourselves. But
of course, yes. And as you become more and more global, obviously there is law outside of the US where you have a lot more protection for free speech and being free to say what you want. In Europe, there's more protection the other way in terms of preventing hate and incitement and so on. So, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be legal complications over this. But I think your approach is it's certainly the decentralised one, to put that back out to the community and let these governance models unfold. It must feel a little bit risky and scary at times to give away that control, but I guess it wouldn't be truly decentralised if you didn't.
Yeah, we have to live by our values, and that is something we feel really strongly about. It's possible we'll be proven wrong, but I think we have to attempt it. You can't just sit there and say these systems are not working, which everyone is shouting right now that, Facebook is not working, or, the current way that the privacy is working with these technologies and the way censorship is working is not great. It's not working. You can't just sit there and say that's not working and not come up with a solution yourself. I don't respect that. What I respect is someone who puts themselves out there and says, here's what I think is going to work, and gives it a shot.
Yeah, and let's try and fix it. And as you say, there has to be, in any system that's going to be future-proof, there has to be, without being naive, some kind of belief in humans to make it work, rather than having to have an external control imposed on it. And I think it is working. We're seeing that with the Civil Newsroom Partnership they had a challenge and they removed a couple of newsrooms that were seen to not be unbiased sources of journalism, for example. And that was the same kind of community voting and governance, and people with skin in the game because they've invested in that platform, whether as token holders or because they've created and submitted to it. I think that's the thing. It's all about aligning those incentives right, I guess.
Exactly. And I should have mentioned them in the timeline history. There are definitely folks who have contributed to the idea of publishing online. They've had their ups and downs too, but I think it's all about transparency, right? And openness and honesty.
Transparency and honesty are not things people expect from platforms. I mean, we all know this now.
Crazy idea, right?
Yeah, I hope that everybody listening to this now has had a chance to watch The Big Hack on Netflix. If you haven't had your eyes opened yet to the way that these platforms conspire to manipulate not just what you do, but what you think, it's absolutely terrifying. So, you either have to take responsibility for yourself and get involved with platforms like Narrative, where you have a direct say over that content and you can influence it by voting up and down and so on, or you can sit there blindly pressing like on things that are served up to you by algorithms you have no clue over, and that could be really manipulating you. I mean, I think I know a little bit about this stuff and I still found that very chilling.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Really scary stuff. So thank you for building us alternatives to that and giving us something to look forward to. Where do you see narrative in the future? Let's get the crystal ball out for a moment. How do you imagine the space will look in a year's time, in 5 years' time? What should we expect, do you think?
Well, we'd love over the next 6 months to a year, we're going to be building out the rest of the spec. Our spec is online. So,
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned, building out publications, adding in the governance component. And we have tons of great community suggestions in the hopper as well, which is really exciting. I think once we've gotten the core platform out of beta, there are so many neat things we could be doing, giving more tools to the content creator, going into different languages. One of our dreams is to be able to have a Spanish language version, an Italian language version, French, German, so that, you mentioned those cultural differences, language
Yeah,
differences. We want to be able to serve those communities as well. And a mobile app. We know mobile app is very important.
right.
So we've got a lot on our plate, but we're cranking through it, and we're dedicated to making sure this thing happens.
Fantastic. And the language and localization, I'm sure that will come from the community as well, I expect, with the kind of improvements in AI and machine learning that are going to let you automate some of that. I think it sounds like that's going to be a really logical next step to going completely global.
Absolutely. And we already have little hotbeds of different groups in English on narrative right now who are kind of laying that groundwork. There's a big Italian contingent in there, and I've seen Spanish in there. I've seen, I mentioned the African and Nigerian
Yeah,
contingent in there. It's so exciting to see these global mini communities popping up in narrative. So I think when we're ready to go forward with some of those languages, there will already be a kind of base there ready to roll.
definitely. I'm sure. So, what should people do then if they're interested in this? At the moment, it's individuals who can create accounts as opposed to businesses and organizations. Have I understood that right?
Correct. Right now you can come sign up, just join. You don't have to use your real name. So if you want to just experiment around under a pseudonym, you can do that. Narrative.org is our home
Mm-hmm.
base. And you can see what's going on in there. You can just come read and subscribe to a couple niches and enjoy, just sit there and write. There's upper right corner, there's a little post button. So I challenge everybody listening to go post something. And I'd love to see what you come up with.
That's fantastic. So I don't have to sign up. I don't have to give away ID. I don't have to be know your customer or identified at this point. I can just come along and just start getting involved in the conversation.
Absolutely. You can go through the KYC process. We call that certification. If you want to, it's totally optional. That just gives you a little reputation boost.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got plenty of folks in there who are just signed up, start writing, start voting, and just have fun with it.
Brilliant. Okay. And I think the idea of earning reward points is something that everybody can pretty much universally understand. And then the whole idea of converting that to crypto, you can more or less put off for now. If you can just think about building up your reputation and your points and enjoying the platform, and then maybe see further down the line that there will be useful educational tools to help you cash that out into dollars or cows or whatever is meaningful to you in your life.
Exactly, exactly.
That sounds fantastic. Well, really, I'm looking forward to getting over there and having a play. So I'll use my real name because everything I do regarding crypto, I try to be as transparent as possible. And I'm still unique on the internet. So if you see me over there, give me a wave, say hi. I'll vote whatever you do, and I will read your stuff and reciprocate and engage because it feels to me as I was going to say a content creator, as a writer, as a journalist, as a podcaster, as a maker of things, that I want to support this. I want to get behind this initiative to decentralize the reward for that kind of activity. I'm excited to see what narrative is building, and I hope it has a really bright future.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about it. The more I can evangelize and get people on board, the better. And we really want to support the creators out there and the artists and the dreamers. And this is the way we're doing it. So thank you so much. And I will keep an eye out for you in the platform too.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you, Rosemary, for coming on Crypto Confidence. Thanks for listening to Crypto Confidence. If you like what you hear, please do consider leaving us a review via your favourite podcasting app and joining the conversation online in whichever way you prefer. Full contact details are in the show notes for this episode. And remember, nothing in this podcast or our related social media, nor anything else published by Blocksparks OU at any location, is intended as financial, investment or trading advice. Everything we write or say represents our personal opinions for your information, education and entertainment only. You should not make any decisions based on anything we share with you, not without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with appropriate professional advisors. Crypto Confidence is all about being smart and informed and making the right choices for you.